Well, it's so nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you, and I'm so excited for this
Me
conversation.
too. I was trying to find a way to summarize your title, but it didn't happen. So I'll
Yes.
just say you're an author, speaker, mystic channeler, healer, and guiding souls to awaken their divine essence through truth, wisdom, and love. So usually what I
Yes.
do is I'll reread someone's profile and I'll be like, okay, where do I want to start? So I kind of
Mhm.
wondered just because I only had a spiritual awakening a couple of years ago. So I kind of wondered how you ever even dipped your toe into this world to begin with.
Oh, it's very complicated. I always say that. And what you read on my bio, that's what I'm doing temporarily, depending on my spiritual pathway. So it changes.
I love that.
So it actually, and I won't go into a long story, but
You
it
can.
actually started when I was young.
Okay.
So, living in the Bible Belt of Texas,
Oklahoma. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yes, right across the border.
Mm-hmm.
So I could feel spirit and I could feel my friends' emotions and their feelings,
Yeah.
and many times I would bring it home with me,
Oh, yeah.
and my mom goes, "Okay, go to your room," and I'd cry it out, and I'm
Wow.
going, "Why am I this emotional? Why, why, why?"
Yeah.
And I thought, a lot of people were able to feel other spirits in the room, and actually Jesus and I had a great relationship because anytime I got in trouble or anything else, I would go and talk to him, and he was always there for me.
Yeah.
But but when I told my friends what was going on with me, and I said, "I want to explore more," their fear came
Yes.
out, and they said, "Oh, no, don't open that
That's
door."
demonic,
And that
Michelle.
Yes,
I
exactly, and
know.
that's what brought the fear in
Yes.
me, and so I closed the door, but I always had that intuitiveness about myself and knowing where I needed to go and how I needed to help people,
Mhm.
and I was still an empath, I was still soaking in other people's emotions, and I did get to the point where I need to do something else because it's going to make me sick because of everybody else's emotions.
Yeah.
But that's how it all started. And then in my 20s, Spirit started knocking on my door again saying, "You need, please come work, you can help people heal." But they came, and I'll tell you this story. They came into my house. Well, of course they weren't in my house, but um, but it's almost like, and I was asleep in bed, but I woke up and I could feel like a group having a party in my
Oh
house.
my
I'm going,
god.
what are they doing? And I could hear them talking. And then they started coming into my bedroom, and I'm going, oh, I don't want to see anything. I could still feel them and hear them. And I felt somebody
Hell
stroking
no.
my neck, and it was a very calming thing. It was like an angel saying, "It's okay. You're going to be
Oh my
okay."
gosh.
So, and in other words, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
And really, that's what kind of got me going. And I
No.
actually went to my minister at the church. And I said, I have spirit coming in. I don't know what to do. And she told me, she said, Michelle, if you are not ready to go down that pathway yet, just tell them that you are not ready. And I went, okay. She didn't tell me it was evil. She just
How
said, just tell
lucky
them
were
that you're not
you?
ready.
And I mean,
Yes.
intuitively, you must have
Yes.
known it was safe to go to her.
Yes, and I actually did. I actually did. I felt very, very safe. And so I told Spirit, I said, right now I need to work with the kids that I'm working with and help guide me. But right now I am not ready. And so I just had that intuitiveness about working with parents, working with children. And especially when I worked with children with autism, it just
Yeah.
really helped me, that type of thing.
Mhm.
But when I retired is whenever I really got the calling, and Spirit wasn't knocking on my door. They were leaving it up to me. And I told my husband, I said, I've got to do this. And and it's so interesting because his background, his dad is a Baptist minister, and his mom was into New Age, but by the time I knew his dad, he wasn't a minister
Oh,
anymore,
okay.
but he had that background, the
Yes, and
logical and the
it
spiritual.
doesn't just leave you because you stop. Like,
Yes. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So my husband has the best of both worlds, and
yeah.
that really helped me. And so I found a psychic medium that was online, and during COVID is whenever it happened, and my spiritual awakening really, took off. And what really helped, and then I'll stop, is I was doing readings, psychic mediumship readings. And I thought, you know what? I like helping people this way, but they're just coming for validation. They know in their heart, they know what to do.
Mhm.
And so I'm going, I want to go up another level. And Lord and behold, my my spiritual teacher, she said, I'm getting a group together and we're going to try plant medicine to see how it will help us spiritually. And I didn't know anything about plant medicine until I really did some research. And I went, oh my gosh, it's totally different than I thought it was. It is an energy that teaches you
Yeah.
and heals you. And I thought, okay, I don't know what healing I need, but okay. And not knowing, I still had that fear. I still had that belief system knocking on my
Oh,
door, keeping
absolutely.
me, holding me back.
Mhm.
And my first journey for 6 hours, I purged all of this. I could feel it working in my cells. I
Mm.
could feel it working, in my aura. I could feel it everywhere. And I saw this black smoke come up, and that's when I purged. So, I was purging all of this, and and my, my spiritual teacher was a little worried about me. But
Oh.
you know what? Yeah, I told her, I said, it's the best thing that has ever happened because I felt the lift of all of that stuff that was holding me down
Yeah.
and all that fear, and so that I could help others, and energetically I was raised a little bit.
Yeah.
And with each healing I received more and more information about what goes behind the veil. But
Yeah.
to get that information I had to heal. But that's where I am now.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Okay, so I have a question. And I'm only asking this because of like how my beliefs have changed so much. So I wondered, you grew up in Texas, I grew up in Oklahoma. I feel like there's just a brand of religion here.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
how has your belief system shifted from when you were raised in that environment versus the spirituality that you kind of accumulated on your own? Like what
Uh,
changed in your beliefs, if anything?
oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, and I tell people, I am actually very grateful to being raised where I was, and having that foundation, believe it or not, because that way I can help a lot of people that are also going through the same
Because
thing,
you
if that
understand.
makes any
Yeah.
sense. Because I
Yeah.
understand it and understand what they're going through, so I can hold that space for them
Mhm.
because I feel like we go through. So I am still grateful for it, but oh my gosh, my belief system has changed totally.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I just
so
wondered because
I
I feel
think
like some people really try
oh,
to,
yeah,
like,
no. I've
meld the
yes.
2, and I'm like, "I don't know, that doesn't really work for
Yes.
me."
Well, and I still work with Jesus,
Right, right.
and the energy, but in a different capacity.
Right, yeah, I
So,
mean, will you explain what you believe Christ consciousness to be? Because I think that
oh my
I
gosh.
have an understanding of my own, but for people who are listening who think already that we're a little bit wacky, I love explaining that, so since you're the guest, if you wanna take a
Yeah.
crack at that.
Well, and I channeled Mary Magdalene, which she came across as Sarah for me. And I didn't know anything about cross consciousness either. And so I learned it from her and then I did additional research as well. But the main thing was, well, I'll back up a little bit. So Jesus, it's not religion, it's energy.
Mhm.
And Jesus showed that energy. He had cross consciousness. We all have cross consciousness energy in us. And it just depends on if you want to work with it or not, if it's, turned on or not. But with her, what Mary Magdalene said, it has three components, main components. And the very first one is truth. Know thyself, know who you are, not being a mom, a teacher, a
Mhm.
grandmother, none of that. Those are labels. Those are things that you're working here on earth. Who you are, who your soul is, why you are here, what you have forgotten, you need to remember who you
Yeah.
truly are. And that's hard. That is a very difficult journey to go
Oh,
on because
Lord.
you're going, well, how do I do it?
Right. I mean,
you, know,
that is
you
the
know what I'm
journey,
saying?
kind of, like, that's the whole point of
It,
all this.
exactly, because you are more than what you see. You are so much more. You are a spark of God. You are the divine within.
Mhm.
And so once you know your truth, that's where the knowledge comes in. And I always tell people, your truth is like the roots of the tree. When the knowledge starts coming in, you get to see the whole tree. You get to see the different shapes of the
Mhm.
leaves. You get to see the energy of the tree, and you're going, I never saw that before. So you're seeing it from a different perspective. It's almost like my knowledge growing up was very
Yes.
religious, was boxed in. And then once I had my spiritual awakening, I was able to fly outside the box and see what else was out there. And I got to see a whole different perspective
Yeah.
and going, you know what? There is so much more to this. Now, the last element or alchemy of it is love. And this is when you get all three of them together, you have actually, the frequency of cross consciousness. But love is very difficult. Love is also added forgiveness. And forgiveness is the most difficult thing that, people say, oh, hell no, I'm done there.
Yeah.
So unconditional love. But what really needs to be known is not only forgive others, but you need to forgive yourself.
And you will forgive
And
others so much easier when you learn to forgive yourself.
yes, absolutely, because I think that love radiates off of that, and
Yes.
you're understanding it more,
Yeah, well, and I mean,
and
forgiveness really is a part of, like, when we're talking about self, part of that compassion and unconditional positive regard. So, like, it is so easy now for me to be like, well, you're human, so you did a human
yes, yeah,
thing. And is there something you want to do differently next time so that you don't feel the way you're feeling about it? But, like, we don't have to sit and nail ourselves to a cross of perfection. It's okay.
yes.
Now, I
Oh,
do wish I was that
absolutely.
easy on other people, and I'm getting very close to that, if I'm being honest, like, I'm
Yeah.
getting pretty close to, like, letting stuff be what it is after I have my little human, response to it or
Oh,
but
yes. Oh,
yeah, the more
absolutely.
I pour into that part of myself, the easier it is to do it with others.
Absolutely, and I think too, I heard this, and it's very difficult for me to even think about, but it's so true when you look at it from different perspectives. So, when we come onto this earth, we have contracts, it's kind of like a human
Right.
it's not, I mean, a contract, but that's how we look at it. And people who are mean to you, that make your life miserable and do hellacious things, they are here to help you learn. Sometimes they're your best friend in heaven, and you don't really think about you're going, "Oh, hell no."
Right, right.
I'm not, and but sometimes it takes that for you to learn. We're all here to learn different things,
Mhm.
and that is stored, and every thought is stored. And, but it's amazing how things work.
Yeah. I've really been, trying to, like, the words that I'm reaching for are deepen my understanding of spiritual contracts, because when I first heard I went to a medium, gosh, I don't even remember how long ago now, like, maybe 6 years ago or something for the first time, because I lost my parents young. I was 15 when my dad died of an overdose, and I was
Mm,
22 when my mom died of complications related to substance abuse as well. And I just was finally over my fear of it being demonic, and so I was like, "I'm going," because I had always been very naturally, like, drawn to people who were not afraid to express this gift. I could feel things like you're saying, like, intuitively, I
mhm,
could feel stuff, especially others' emotions, but I was terrified, and my family was very like, "You don't mess with that," you know? So I was really, really
right.
afraid, but I went, and then I ended up seeing him 3 times because I was just desperate for more information, but the first time I went, Woo, I was triggered because
Oh,
I had not had a spiritual awakening yet, and so
right.
there was stuff I just didn't understand. So when he's saying, like, "You chose this experience, you chose your
Mhm.
parents, you chose your struggles," oh, I was pissed, but something inside of me said, "Well, wait, like, you can take what resonates and leave what doesn't, like, this may make sense later," and then the longer I've gone throughout my spiritual journey, the more everything he said in those 3 sessions made sense to me, but boy, it
Right.
really pissed me off at first.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so interesting that you said that because whenever I worked at holistic fairs, you would see, a couple of women together and they go, "Oh, let's go get a reading." And they thought it would be all fun.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And they sit down and I say things and you could kind of tell they're going and they're trying not to cry,
Right, because
and it's
they weren't
it's like
expecting to, like, have an emotional experience in front of their friend.
yeah, so let me ask you this. So the first time that you went to meet him and he triggered some things, um, did you believe him or were you saying, "Oh, he's just pulling my leg?"
I think I was in between. I
Okay.
decided that something in my spirit recognized what he was saying to be true.
Yeah.
But I also knew I wasn't ready to hear it because it really upset me, and so I was like, "Maybe. Maybe he knows what he's talking about." And, I mean, that he said that the first time I saw him, and then I saw him 2 more times. So, I think there was a trust I had in him, so I wasn't gonna just completely dismiss him and think he was crazy, but I was okay with settling with maybe.
Okay. Okay, because yeah, that just interests me being where you live and where I live too. And to me, I think it's getting better. I think a lot of people, like you said, are trying new things or not putting their sunglasses on
Right.
and are actually going out there. And I think the young ones are really helping us out
I
because I
agree.
think the young ones are, their energy and their education and their boldness
Your
of
boldness.
not caring,
They
not
want to
being a
buck
people
against all the
pleaser.
systems.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas, like, Gen X and some millennials, like, really were taught never ever go against the grain, and then especially
Mhm.
when it comes to religion. That fear was deep in me, but I feel like
Yes.
too, something shifted in the way people raise their children around religion. Obviously, there's lots of fundamentalists
Yeah.
out there and stuff, but, like, my son, and maybe it's just because I didn't raise my son religious, so he didn't hang out with people who were raised religious. Maybe that's, like, the worldview that
Right.
I've got, but, like,
Right.
all of his friends, like, they're all, like, New Age believers at the least, and then pretty open to whatever you say.
Yes. Yes. Oh, and to me, just like you said, I think it's important for them to know that there is a higher, being, whatever you call that.
Mhm.
Because that way, when they get lonely, they have somebody to talk to. Like when I was younger, I talked to Jesus,
Right.
so or go to, or just know that you're not alone.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part for my son is he's kinda just now becoming open to that possibility, but
Right.
he's very, like, well, he ain't gonna listen to anything I say, and so he's
Oh, right.
23, but
Yes. Yes.
also he's just so, like, practical and logical, you know?
Oh, right. And he's gotta find it on his
Ye
own. And
absolutely.
that's, what I tell parents, don't push it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just yeah,
So I
because 'cause they're not gonna let like
I
you
hope
said.
that that's, I mean, and I feel like he's on that path, so I just kinda, whisper my shit here and there, just I'm like, "Well," you know?
I love it.
That's how I I do everything is I'm like, "Well, me specifically, not talking about you, I would never talk about you. Me specifically, this is what I'm doing." And so and then I'll hear him regurgitating something I said. I'm like, "Mhm, mhm, okay."
Uh-huh. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, my kids, when they, of course, see me on Instagram or, social media, they're going, "Go, mom, go," and they like all my videos. I'm going, "Oh, that is just so sweet." So I just wonder what kind of impact, that we have, through modeling or living the way that we feel like we need to live.
I think we are the greatest impact on our little systems, when because I went through like this extreme mental health crisis a couple of years ago. and the show was born from that in attempts to live a more authentic, aligned life, as well as to learn and grow. And most of what I've gained in terms of knowledge has come from the people I've met on the show. But
Oh,
when I started to shift and my vibration and frequency changed, I felt the entire house shift. And so I'm kind of the barometer of this place. If I'm in a bad mood, everybody's in a bad mood. If I'm in a good mood, it's much easier for them to like click into that, you know? So I also think even spirituality aside, emotional stuff aside, I think when your kids specifically see you be unafraid or act even when afraid on pursuing you, it gives them all that permission that they want to pursue them. And so I think when we teach them to love ourselves so loudly that we don't care, like, yeah, sometimes I'm afraid of criticism and judgment, but I'm not going to let it stop me, you know?
oh,
And so
right,
I
right.
think that that is the perfect model for them to see how to begin to even take steps in this life, because that's really what it all boils down to, is not letting fear stop you. I mean, the things we've already discussed, but, just finding that self-love
N
where you're willing to act even when something makes you a little nervy.
Now I'm kinda curious, with your spiritual awakening, how did you know you were going through a spiritual awakening?
Well, it kind of started, with astrology, and someone said, "Well, my friend says that astrology is more like a blueprint, like a destiny, not like, um, personality. Like, you have that stuff for a reason or whatever." So I started looking into it, and at this point, I had kinda denounced any sort of higher power. And so I really started pouring into this because it made me feel a little safer to be able to believe in something bigger than myself, you know?
Oh, right.
And so I really
Yeah.
got deep into like what my personal astrology is. I love astrology. I study it as much as I can, but I'm not like great at translating other people's stuff. But so I was like, wow, okay, this really does feel like a blueprint. And then as I started to shift some things, I would have these like I had this ability all of a sudden to see things differently, like you were talking about. Huh, well, and then everything changed. Like the first real hit was like learning like I don't have to try to change every last thing about myself to be worthy. That this person I was working so hard to become wasn't going to be perfect. She already is so good, and I just needed to unbecome a couple of things, but it was like a full body experience when I had that aha,
Wow.
and then from that day forward, multiple paradigm shifts a day, just like that, the full body, whatever, daily, several times per day, and so I was just seeing I was my conscious was just expanding very quickly, and so I was just seeing things so much differently, and I was immersing myself in spiritual content too, so it made sense to me what was happening, but I was a little afraid of it because I was like, you know what happens when you have that experience and you don't feel like the same person anymore. So, like, it
Oh, yeah.
happened multiple times a day. I was like, "I might be schizophrenic. I'm not sure." And so I was really kind of
Right,
afraid of
right.
that because I truly do have a schizophrenic brother from doing, like, too many drugs. And so I was like, "Oh my gosh." But I just started grounding in to, like, the fact that I'm a human first, but this is, like, a really important facet of who I am, and just working through that. But it really just started with an understanding of being able to see something from a totally different angle. And then as I did like a bunch of emotional work on myself and getting to be very intimate with my wounding and why I did things the way I did, again it allowed me to see things from a different perspective, because it is so easy for me to understand why somebody else does what they do, because it's the same reason I do what I do, just in different fonts. Sometimes I gotta dig and try to figure it out or really put myself in their position and be like, "Why would I do that?" But with each understanding about why I do what I do and why other people do what they do, that's when I, like, uh, reached oneness for the first time, So it's like I've had these little micro lessons that come and teach me each phase of these things. And then lo and behold, I'll have a guest on that I'm like, let me talk to you about this because I just went through this, da 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 da, So like it's been the most amazing experience for the last year and a half.
Oh, yeah, and I agree with you. When you are able to talk about your experience with other people, you find out you're not losing your mind.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? That this is a part of spirituality and your spiritual pathway, and a lot of people don't realize it is very difficult.
Mhm.
It's very difficult, especially when you have an ego death
Yeah.
and you change and you're going, "What is happening?" And it's hard because you don't know who to turn to.
Yeah, and when you live in Oklahoma because here's the deal is that most people I'm around have done one or the other. They're still really religious or they've gone completely no belief system. So even I sound crazy to them too. The non-believers I sound crazy.
Yes.
And I don't care that I sound crazy, but it's also like who am I supposed to talk to? So I just kind of like started really really leaning into the fact that I believe the people on my show are meant to be on my show and anyone with a free resource I used. So like I just would always be like, "What do you think about this?" But I think what people really misunderstand about spirituality is it is not always some sudden ability to communicate with people on the other side. You know what I mean? Like for me, that
Mhm,
hasn't been my
mhm,
experience yet. I still have a
right.
blockage somewhere. I
Oh,
tried so
no.
hard, damn it. But
No, yeah.
um, but for me, it has looked like a lot of emotional healing and a desperation to see things differently all the time and asking myself and the universe and all of the things to help me see things differently all the time.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
it it all just transforms you when you do that. I mean, there's a belief there to begin with, but I'm not like I don't do any like channeling at all, really. I
Right.
mean, eventually, I think, Lord knows for the last year and a half, I've been like, let me develop a better practice. So, I try, to have a better
Yeah,
practice. But my hygiene at this
yeah.
point really is just taking care of this physical vessel and my emotions and you know what I mean? And then tapping
Yeah.
into oneness and love and joy and gratitude. That's kind of my hygiene at this stage.
And I love how you bring that up because when you're on a spiritual pathway, and spirituality does not mean channeling, it does not mean mediumship, it does not mean using your intuition, it is knowing thyself, getting to know who you are in your pathway. So, yeah, so people don't have to use any tool of the trade. They don't have to go into crystals.
Right?
You got to speak, you got to listen to what you need, what your soul needs to carry on. And I think you said it perfectly. You're here, you may be spiritual, but you're still here on earth and you've got to live as a human being because we're here for a purpose
Mhm.
and we don't need to forget that.
Yeah, and I think at first, thankfully I do have great intuition because at first it would have been easy for me to be led astray by the people who are really spiritual bypassing.
Oh,
Because
yes.
listen,
Yeah.
the world they describe is pretty beautiful, and when you tap into that, it's beautiful. It really is. I mean, tapping into your highest energy, yes, it is freaking amazing. There is a part of me that longs for that nonstop because
Oh,
the world
mm,
is a painful place to live. But something intuitively was like, I don't think they're dealing with the realness here, though. And then you just kind of see like some people took it a little too far. Like they're not anchored. And so I really, as part of my hygiene, is very like rooted in my humanity, tethered to my
mhm,
highest self, and where can I be in that middle ground where sometimes I don't need to shame myself whenever I do have just like a wall-eyed fit over something, because I'm allowed to be human. Whereas that's a place I can really hold some shame if I allow it because I'm like, my higher self knows better than da, 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 da," and I know why people do that. So why am I reacting? Because I'm a human and I'm allowed to do that. So I really try to like work through the humanness of things first and then kind of shift the perspective and say, for my higher good, for their higher good, from a place of love and compassion for myself, how can I move forward from this situation in a way that allows peace for me? And I think that's the deal. Like, yeah, it's great to have unconditional love for everyone in the world, but when you have it for you and you make decisions from that place, it doesn't really matter what that other person is, does, thinks about you, thinks about anything else. The point really is to move from that place in yourself.
You said that so well.
Thank you.
I'd say that again, but
It's been a journey, Michelle. It's been a journey. It really has.
let me tell you. And I stopped saying this. I stopped saying, God gives you things that He knows that you can handle, and I and I'm going, no, don't give me any more. I'm done.
Well,
But yeah,
I'll
but
tell
that's
you,
being human.
I I think that was one of the first things that like felt so much more peaceful to me in the idea of like spirituality versus religion and soul contracts and like just our human contract, right? Is cuz the way I was raised to believe in God and what he does and original sin and all of the things. Um like, he got to decide, and then I just have to whatever, like, "Oh, you decided I'm strong enough for this, so I have to fucking deal with it? Excellent. Fuck that." Versus, like, I have so much peace with the notion that I said, "I want this lifetime to accomplish this. My
Right,
soul has a great desire to learn this, and I understand it's gonna come with real shit and real heartache and heartbreak that you could never imagine surviving." I feel peace with that.
yeah.
Like, that's the only thing that gets me through sometimes is like, okay, well, hey, higher self, I really hope you're proud right now because look, that's some real shit that we're surviving right now. That's like, I do have
Abso
peace in that versus somebody else deciding for me.
do you think that we choose what experiences that we go through so that we can help others go through it?
I do think that, or at least I don't know that we choose like the exact stuff. I think there's like for me, and this is something I've been questioning lately, like not like oh, but like thinking about. So I
Yeah.
kind of think, well, I do think we ask for more specific than we maybe think. But like there's been a real running theme in my life of loss and grief and addiction
Mm.
around me and whatever. And so I must have asked for this specific thing. I also my purpose has kind of evolved in like where I always knew from the time I was like 4, you're going to go through stuff and then share on the other side of that how you got through it and help like your pain is your purpose. You will help others through your pain. The way that's evolved for me is I'm now sharing really through the use of my show in real time how I'm learning and growing and becoming so vulnerable with people and the more intense experience that I'm going through, the more open I am about it. So I think it was for me, like, to help my soul to learn more, about whatever it is you could possibly learn from the worst things you can possibly experience in life, but also as part of my purpose to help others because I don't know people who are super effective in helping others without some understanding of darkness inside of them, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. Oh, I agree totally. I agree. Because it's very interesting how, and this is talking about the holistic fair. So whenever I was doing psychic mediumship, We're sitting at the booth and we're going, "Okay, come to me," 'cause I hate sitting there for 6
Yes.
hours doing nothing. But anyway, you watch people and I'm sitting in a whole room full of other psychic mediums, and it's so interesting to watch how people are connecting with the psychic medium's energy.
Yeah.
And I would always get, educators. I would always get people going through, the belief system of Christianity.
Yes.
And the person next to me now would get people who had drug addictions or been through it or been abused because that's how they grew up.
Yes.
And so their energy was pulling them. And I just found it so interesting that, energy connects with energy.
Yeah.
And so you have different souls that are going through the same thing and they connect with one another.
Yeah.
And when you heal one person, you're healing yourself.
Mhm.
And when I say you're healing, you're not really healing them. You're helping them remember. You're helping them heal themselves.
Yes.
So you're not really healing them, but with your words and with your energy and your frequency, you're helping them reach a level that they didn't think was possible.
Yeah, and so much of the healing that you receive when you're helping somebody else in a situation like that really is about, like, um, the gratitude you have for yourself for being able to hold it, to hold someone else in that space. Again, I've never done
Mhm.
mediumship, but I've done tarot and I'm a therapist, so I do a lot of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
But I think that's so much of the part because gratitude is so much a part of our love and our joy. And so I think just being so grateful to yourself for being able to hold somebody else in that energy. And it makes sense to me too that we would be drawn to certain aspects of one another because I I truly can't hold super religious people. I'm still recovering from my little religious trauma. I can't hold
Mhm.
them all
Right.
that well. It's something I'm feeling very called to work on and am, but I'm not great at it. I'm not great at it. Like, because whenever they start to like spout their shit at me, I'm like, I know that's what you believe. I
Mhm.
know that's what you believe, but okay, honey, that's okay.
I know, it's like, "Trigger,
It
trigger."
it is, and I think
And
it's just the next thing I have to work on, but it's the worst. It's the worst for
yeah.
me. Well, because
Right.
I also
Right, right, right.
because, I don't know if you're into astrology, but I'm a Leo moon, so everything's about me, and, it also triggers my defenses, like because 'cause I'm like, "No, you're wrong and I'm right," So that's a whole thing too that I have to constantly work through.
Yes, and, through the healing with me as well is because I was an empath and I was taking on other people's stuff, and that was actually going into my cells.
Mhm.
And you as a therapist, and this is a good point for other therapists too, because they get into it because they want to help others. And when you're in therapy, you're pulling whatever stuff they have into your soul, into your system. And that's what I was told. You are not doing that anymore because it's taken a toll on you.
Mhm.
So I'm learning when I say that they're healing themselves, I'm not taking any more energy from other people. And so I built that resilience, and that's been hard for me because I'm so used to going, oh,
Yes.
let me take on your energy. But
Yes.
but as therapists, I mean, a lot of therapists, don't realize they're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's why you're so tired afterwards, after a session.
Uh-huh. Well, and that's kind of how I know whether or not I wanna continue to work with someone, because if it's a
Mm.
drain to my system, it's not what I need.
Uh,
But if it lights me up,
oh.
I know I'm in alignment and it's all good, you know? Which most things that I do, I kind of just steer away from things that make me feel drained. Because it's not hard for my energy to get drained because I have such huge energy that I like raw with it, But if I find that like consistently I'm feeling really tired and cranky after something, I don't stop doing it. I'll figure out a way to not do that anymore because but it's also why I'm a little bit broke. 'Cause you gotta make money, but I'm not, like, putting that as, like, the highest priority because I'm like, "Yes, but I don't like the way I feel when I do that."
Yeah, well, good for you, and I think that is a protection, and I think we all need to do that, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, if it doesn't align with you, then are you really helping that person?
Yeah, and I find no, I'm not.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what's really
That's
funny
true.
to me, and this very rarely happens, but it does happen. What's funny to me is when, because I don't do pre-interviews, as you saw. I
Oh,
kind of just go with the vibes, like I say yes based off intuition and no off intuition, and that's how I do it.
oh,
Every now and then I will get someone who is just not vibing with me at all. And or I'm not vibing with them or both or whatever. We just kind of don't like each other. Um and I will air it anyway, and every single time, like, I have a friend who listens to every single episode. Every single time, she won't like the person either. Like, I will get feedback from other
oh,
people about, like, "That was weird," or you know what I mean? I'm like, I
mhm.
don't know why I even bother posting the ones that we're not vibing, because we're not having synergy. It's not there. You know what I mean? And what I find,
Oh,
and I used to
absolutely.
be so afraid to have these conversations. Actually, having spiritual conversations on the show has been part of my like journey of authenticity and alignment. And what is so beautiful to me is that because we're both so excited and in our our energy and stuff, people love it. Whether they believe a damn word we're saying or not, they love it and they get something out of it. You know what I mean? And that was a beautiful lesson for me to see, because I'm like, "Oh my god, you don't think like I'm going to hell and shit? Okay. Okay. Cool." I was so afraid of the judgment and criticism before. But I mean, that's kind of the life that was one of the things, like, I really had to accomplish in this lifetime is learning, like, I can still worry about it sometimes, but I don't let it impact my decision making, you know?
Oh, I love it. Like, can I tell you a short story?
Please tell me all the
Um
stories.
okay, so whenever I decided, to go into be a psychic medium, I hadn't really told many people besides my husband. But I started a business page and I thought, COVID is going on. I want to do readings online. I want to bring hope to people. And so I do a business page and I go live and I'm going, that person's not on my business page. I was on my personal page going live. And I went, I just like stopped. I'm going, my people pleaser in me was going, no,
Yes.
stop it. But I thought, you know what? I'm here for a reason. I'm going to continue. And I did. And I mean, I could say I got really red faced and everything else. But when I got off of it and I thought, oh, here we go. I'm going to hear, I had two people from my church call me and say, how cool is this? And I want a reading. And I went, "Oh my gosh,"
Oh my.
and so that was something in me saying, "You're aligned, you need to continue."
Yeah.
And of course, now that's the good side, but of course, the people who did not agree with it, they either, unfriended me or they weren't coming to talk to me, but it's okay because that's where they are and that's where I am. You do lose some people when your belief system changes.
Yeah.
And they were only there for a short time and that's okay. They
Yeah.
weren't your true friend authentically anyway.
Yes. And I think it was so easy for me. And it really wasn't as much about, like, my beliefs changed and they didn't appreciate my beliefs, but it was more like, well, really, truly, universe, source, whatever you wanna call it, wiped out a bunch of people out of my life at once, like, whenever I had my spiritual awakening, because they were no longer meant to be on this path with me. But
Right.
still, to this day, I can feel a little rejected and abandoned by that, you know? But I just deal with where that comes from, because that's just my inner child who, has those wounds. And when I can sit and look at it differently, it all makes sense to me why they did what they did, why I did what I did. So, um, it's a natural response to not feel super great when people don't want to be around you anymore. But I also think, again, it's just one of those things where you don't let it impact your decision making. And, your outer world just becomes even more beautiful when you don't let your inner world get really cluttered with, why don't they like me? Why am I not good enough? You know?
And I love that you said it's your childhood because it's so during meditation, I asked to be shown. I said, "Show me where I need to heal." And that was the number one thing is I did not feel loved or special from my parents.
Mhm.
And that's where your people pleasing skills come in and try to please everybody. And it's exhausting.
It is
And yeah, and I was shown different scenes and different scenarios. I'm going, "Oh yeah, now I know." And not to blame my parents. I mean, they were doing the best that they
right,
could.
nobody could
But
give us everything we needed, nobody.
right, right, right. So, I did, oh my gosh, I've done a lot of healing in 3 years.
Yeah,
And that was one of them. And it's not like, and my husband said the same thing, whenever you go up to a person, you don't say, "Okay, I'm in spirituality, this is what I believe in." It's like church, you
yeah,
don't talk about it a
yeah.
lot of times, but if somebody brings it up, I'll talk about it. But, he said, "So, don't be afraid to meet other new people," because I think I was afraid to step in a lot of times,
Yeah.
afraid that they may find out. And he goes,
Oh,
"You gotta be who you are," and I'm
yes.
going, "Thank you, I needed that,"
Yeah, what a
type
great
thing.
support because,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I could definitely understand that because so often, because I can't not talk about it is the thing. Because the
Yeah,
second someone says
right.
something, and honestly, I don't have conversations very different than this. Usually because, these aren't the only kind of conversations I really like having. So, like, I don't like talking
Yeah.
about benign stuff. Used to, I was, like, the biggest source of gossip, the biggest source of complaining. You could come to me with any of that, and I would talk about anybody and complain about anything because I didn't know how to connect authentically. I didn't know how to be vulnerable and show who I truly
Right.
was at my core. Well, now I do, and sometimes that gets me in trouble. People just want silly talk sometimes, and I'm like, "Well, I mean, for a little bit, but then we gotta not be silly anymore." Like, I don't enjoy talking shit. I just don't. We could talk about animals, like, things that are just, like, cutesy bootsy and whatever, but, like, really predominantly, most of my conversations are this. Otherwise, I'm kind of just internal doing my own thing because it's not worth
Oh,
the connection if it's not gonna light me up a lot of times. I mean, unless, like, I'm doing therapy and whatever, but again, most of them go a lot like this. Um, and so I do sometimes hesitate to initiate friendships or social outings or whatever because I'm like, well, I haven't met a lot of people who want to just have serious conversations all the time. I have met some.
mhm.
And so like my little
Right.
online community that I've created through my show, uh when I say community, like the people I've met and that I maintain contact with regularly, I have those people. But in real life it's just tricky to have friendships that can hold this level that like it's not like I think I'm better or smarter, but like I'm intense, I think is a good way to put it. Like I'm fun and carefree, but I have some real intensity in me. And so it's not always easy to hold. I get that.
Well, and you're taking off that mask, and that's authentic that you decided to grab onto through your spiritual pathway, and that's beautiful.
Thank you. I
Mm.
love it. Okay, Michelle, tell us where we can find you.
Okay, right now I'm in between. I'm not really offering services right now
Okay.
because I'm waiting for Spirit to tell
Yeah,
me, but I
yeah. I
do
love
have
that.
a website, and that you can reach me there. I call it the hub. But it's www.themichellehenderson.com. And I tell everybody, I didn't choose the Michelle Henderson through my ego. It was the only domain left.
You you are fine to be the Michelle Henderson, okay? Do you have social
That's
media?
true. I'm
Do
sorry?
you have social media?
Yeah, so, yeah, if they go to my website, I have all the social
Oh,
media
perfect.
links as
Okay,
well.
because I
So
want
I
to be
have
friends with you
LinkedIn,
there.
I
Yeah.
have YouTube, yeah. I
Okay.
don't do TikTok because the energy.
I feel you on that.
Yeah.
I'm having to watch myself with TikTok lately. Um okay, so but are you on Instagram? Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
Okay, that's where I hang
Yes,
out the
and
most, so
Yes, and it's Michelle Mystic Channeler,
Okay, perfect. Well,
on
and I will make
Instagram.
sure to include all your links in the show notes.
Okay.
And I've just loved having you on. To thank you so much for this
Well,
connection. I had
thank
so much fun
you.
with you.
Oh, well, thank you, and I love to call you the lady in red because that's your spunk, that's your energy, you are grounded, you are,
Thank
you
you.
you are anchored, so you're ready to move on, so
Thank you. You're so fun and sweet.
you're
I've really had such a good time with you. Okay,
well,
well,
thank
I'm
you.
gonna press stop if you wouldn't mind hanging out for 1 sec.
Oh, sure.
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.